Please subscribe to Facetv Africa and turn the notification on. Facetv Africa, subscribe,
Facetv Muswobi.
Presidential candidates of over 6 political parties. And today, we will be talking to the candidate of the African Action Congress, Omoyele Sowore. I have with me on this interview panel my colleagues, and we shall be meeting them very shortly. But before we go on to the interaction with Sowore, let us, as usual, get to meet him. Who is the gentleman called Omoyele Sowore? Let's have a bit of his profile.
Omoyele Sowore, born 16 February 1971, is a human rights activist, pro-democracy campaigner, founder of online news agency Sahara Reporters, and presidential candidate of the African Action Congress. Omoyele Sowore is an indigenous of Ilaje, Ondo State in southwest Nigeria. Sowore was born in the Niger Delta region of the country, where he was also raised, to a polygamous family of 16 children. At 12, he learned how to ride the motorcycle so that he could fish at the lake for the entire family before going to school every morning. Sowore studied geography and regional planning at the University of Lagos from 1989 to 1995, with his academic program extended by 2 extra years after being expelled twice for political reasons and student activism. He was the president of the University of Lagos Student Union government between 1992 and 1994, where he was keenly involved in anti-courtism and anti-corruption advocacy. Sowore holds a master's degree in public administration from the Columbia University. He also played a key role in the actualization of the June 12 mandate. Sowore led 5,100 students in protest against the Nigerian government in 1992. The protest resulted in police opening fire and 7 persons being killed. Sowore was arrested and tortured. Omoyele also got involved in the demand for democratic government taking over from the military. In 1993, this resulted in several arrests, detentions, and life-threatening treatment by government officials. He started Sahara Reporters in a small room in Manhattan in 2006 to fight corruption and wrong government practices. Sahara Reporters is supported by grants donated by the Ford Foundation and Omidia Foundation. As part of its policy, the medium does not accept adverts and financial support from the Nigerian government. On February 25, 2018, Sowore announced his intention to run for the position of president in the 2019 general election. In August 2018, he founded a political party, the African Action Congress, on which platform he will run for presidency.
Right, thank you so much for staying with us, Face the Nation. And 2 of my colleagues are here with me. Amos Dunia is the executive editor of Forefront magazine. Thank you so much for joining us, Amos. And also joining us is Philip Iam, who is a political correspondent of the New Telegraph newspaper. Philip, thank you for joining us. Our guest is Omoyele Sowore, who is the presidential candidate of the African Action Congress, AAC. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for bringing me.
Well, we must apologize very sincerely for bringing the program to you a few minutes behind schedule. But here, Sowore is here with us now, and it's time to find out why he is running for the presidency of Nigeria.
Thank you for bringing me once again, and good evening to Nigerians. I am running to become the president of Nigeria in 2019 because for 58 years since independence, this country has been governed by leaders who do not understand the country Nigeria, who do not understand its people, and apparently has not had interest of the people at heart. And I have been through 7 presidents in my lifetime, since 1989 when I entered the University of Lagos, and have seen how the last president was better than the next one up until today, because there is standards for running a government has been completely absent. And where we are today is that Nigeria has been left broke, with huge unemployment numbers, with children out of school, becoming a country where you're likely to die before you reach the age of 5, and recently became the country which is the poverty capital of the world, whereas other West African countries or other sub-Saharan African countries are doing better than us. We are getting worse. But we stand here deceiving ourselves that these things will change if we don't change the players who are gaming us in this country. And people like me who have always stood on the side thinking that we can help them shake the trees when the fruits are ripe would have a different country if we don't step into the ring. I've suddenly realized that we are deceiving ourselves. I'm 47 years old. The people who fought for independence in Nigeria started doing it in their 20s. The Azikiwes, the Awolowos, and the Ahmadu Bellos, the Tafawa Balewas, made this country even a better country in their 20s. As a matter of fact, President Buhari was 34 years old when he was the Minister of Petroleum Resources. There were refineries then. He came back 40 years later. He can't fix the refineries. The former Vice President, who is the PDP presidential candidate, Atiku, ran for presidency in 1992 when I was in the university. The Minister of Agriculture in Nigeria today has been around since the days of Lugard. I'm talking about Audu Ogbe. I'm just exaggerating there. These guys have no ideas. I'm not quarreling against their age. I'm quarreling against the age of their ideas and the fact that they have no capability. If you leave this country in their hands, in their care for the next 40 years, they have nothing else to offer. So it is for those of us who want to see a different country, who want to change this country, and I'm not talking about the fraudulent change they brought 4 years ago, real revolutionary change, to step into the ring, fix this country by putting in power or in position of authority by election people who know how to do things right. And I have done things right for 30 years, and my records are there for people to question, to query, to interrogate, and understand that you're talking to a person of integrity who can take this country to prosperity and progress starting from next year. Talking about your records. Yes. Many will ask, what are those records that you are talking about? Many will say, you do not have any experience in government and governance. You have not held any public office before. Where are you going to tap that experience that you need to run a country as large and as diverse as Nigeria? It's very interesting that people swear on that. Then it would have meant that people who had the experience you're talking about would have done this country differently. President Buhari, for example, was the president of this country before. President Olusegun Obasanjo was the president of this country before. If you want to count their experience as the experience we need, they should have been the most experienced leaders. But look at where they left this country. The people that I've mentioned in the past who fought for independence, ask yourself, where did they get political experience? Which public office did Awolowo hold before he fought for independence? Which public office did they hold before they became regional leaders that all of us are jealous of today? When Gowon became the president of this country and fought through a war, which political office did he hold before he became the president at the age of 29 or thereabout? None. We're talking about character. Countries that are looking for leaders that will take them to progress are not looking for people who have experience in stealing or assassination or deception. They are looking for people with character. Countries vote for presidents with character. They don't vote for presidents with useless political experiences. I do not need to have been in public office, but here is what I want to tell you about my experience. Every time it was necessary to find somebody to fight for the progress of this country when we needed democracy, as a student activist, I was there. Laid my life, on the ground for whatever could happen. And in 1999, that democracy came about. When there was a time in this country that everybody said if Obasanjo didn't become the president the third time, this country will not make progress. I was one of the few people who stood up and said, third time is unacceptable because we can't afford a Mugabe in this country. When President Yar'Adua was sick and was dying and there was a cabal around him that prevented a minority from becoming president, and all of the political leaders, including judges in this country, including parliamentarians, the Senate, the House of Representatives, even a young person at that time who was Speaker, Bankole, sided against Jonathan becoming president. I used Sahara Reporter to expose the fact that Jonathan was brain dead, and Nigeria needed to prepare for it. Not even the Niger Delta militants could do it, even though they said he was their man at that time. We're talking about character here. We're talking about courage that could take countries to bigger levels. And I'll give you 2 more examples of countries that had people of my pedigree. I'm not as big as they are. Mandela came directly from prison. Which local government did he govern before he became the president of South Africa? The most stabilizing force in the history of that country. Obama was regarded as a community organizer. Somebody might say he was a senator, but it was just for 6 months. But he was known as a community organizer and derided for it. He stabilized America's economy for 8 years that he was in America. He's described as America's best president because it wasn't because he was a former senator, but because he was a man of character, intellect, capacity. And that is the mistake we must not make. You cannot continue to have people who do not have ideas, people who have no character, people who have no capability, boast about experiences that failed us, and we are shouting experience. I don't understand what experience you need more than that of a 30-year-old experience that I have. I'm 47 years old, Nigeria is 58 years. Out of 58 years, I've dedicated 30 of my years on earth fighting for what is just and right. And there's no political event in the last 30 years that took place that I wasn't part of. Which experience do you need more?
Okay, gentlemen.
Mr. Sowore, you are most welcome once again.
Thank you so much, sir.
You alluded to the U.S., where you have both structures and institutions working.
Yes.
Here in Nigeria, such do not take place. Do you think you'll be able to use the same parameters that the leaders in U.S., South Africa you alluded to?
When Mandela became the
let me finish,
yes,
if you give me a chance.
No problem.
Do you think you can use the same parameters that are used in these nations in Nigeria that is so complex and has refused to grow beyond what you think? Minus that, you said during your opening that each leader we have is worse than the
last one.
Yes. If you are to tell me in details, what indices did you use to arrive at your conclusion?
Well, I'll start with your last position. I read in the newspaper today that President Goodluck Jonathan is calling Buhari incompetent. You know, we used to call him incompetent. In fact, the economists describe him as a buffoon at a point. This is the Economist newspaper. But he is so comfortable today that he could call his successor incompetent. That's just to tell you, because this one is contemporary. You know, but let me go back to the issues you raised. You see, institutions and structures are not built on their own. They are built by men of character. When you're talking about the U.S., what is keeping the U.S. going is not just those institutions. It's the character of men that are occupying institutions, or those ones who have historically built the institutions. If you look at the U.S. today, if the U.S. were to be Nigeria, Mueller would have been sacked. I mean, the special prosecutor, I mean, the special counsel who is looking into the Russian meddling with the election. It's not as if President Donald Trump can't sack him. But the country's conscience, which is behind this institution, its history and pedigree, will not allow that to happen. Men who are working with him, who have to advise him, who know that there will be consequences if they even give such an advice, will not allow him to do that, because they know that there are chains of commands that will suffer for it if that were to happen. But you talk about South Africa. When Mandela came, South Africa was an apartheid state. It was the courage of his conviction and morality that helped to open up the space for black participation. If it wasn't Mandela, it would have been a different story. So the institutions are there. They are still there today. But it took one man, Mandela, to change South Africa from an apartheid state to a democratic state. Those are what we talk about. That's why I'm not here talking about my years as a student union leader, which could count for experience, because I did better than most state governors when I was a student leader, honestly, in this country. Because at the time in this country, the duty of bringing about democracy, which was what was most important for Nigeria, was on our shoulders when we were in our 20s. But there were military administrators all over the place who were jostling around stealing money. There were civilians who were helping the military suppress our democratic aspirations. But nobody counted that as experience. That is experience. I tell people, if I were to be an army in the army, I would have been retired by now as a full-star general, going by the number of wars I fought and the scars that I had to show for 30 years of consistently fighting. But here, who cares? You know, people are looking at those who destroyed the country, and we are rewarding them on a daily basis with socio-political promotions. We are giving them titles. We called some of them GCON, GCFR, and you look at what they did, they destroyed this country. But for those of us who have fought on the side of rights, what do we get? We get derided. They ask me, where's your experience? Some people will even ask me, why don't you go and run for local governments? You understand? And this country is being run by people who never did half of what I did. In fact, in honesty, and history can bear me witness, even though they don't teach them in schools anymore, when so many of these characters were hiding under their bed in the 90s, we were fighting on the streets for democracy that they are now benefiting from. And I can mention their names one after the other, but there won't be time for it, and that's not what we are here for. I'm here to project to you why I'm going to be your best president ever if you make the right choice next year.
Now, Philip, before you come in, let me ask, when you formed your choice of the AAC as a political platform to run on?
Well, you know,
what does the AAC stand for,
okay,
as of today?
That is the African Action Congress. And the reason we chose the word Africa is that we are looking beyond Nigeria, because the entire African continent is actually looking up to Nigeria. In fact, the black race is looking up to Nigeria to be liberated so that they can find their own meaning and dignity as well. That's why the word Africa is there. And because Africa, of course, needs action, we must match all of our rhetoric with action for us to make the progress we want to make. Look, I was in South Africa recently, and I was invited on an interview. I spoke for 5 minutes. They shut down the interview. What was I saying? I said, look, the moment I become the president of Nigeria, the treatment you made out to Nigerians will stop. They were scared. They don't want somebody to say that. They didn't understand that the president of Nigeria is practically the president of Africa. And I'm not trying to be territorial here, but that moral voice is important on the continent of Africa. You know, and it is true. Look at the only time that Nigeria just pulled its weight on South Africa when they were doing the nonsense with yellow fever cards. The next day, everybody sat right. But you know where we are today is because every other person is doing well, and Nigeria is not doing well. We did Ghana must go. Ghana is planning Nigeria must go now, because Ghana has moved from where they used to be in 1983 to better than where we are. Our celebrities are sending airport pictures from Ghana to us as if they went to the moon. Ghana is 34 minutes from here. There's no airport you can send its pictures from here because of mismanagement of not just our resources but our space, but they've also mismanaged our mentality to the extent that people have become mental slaves. That is why even young people don't have that pedigree to think that it is possible for a child of nobody to be the president of Nigeria. You're only good as far as they are concerned as becoming the local government chairman, not the president, because they don't even think of you as somebody who's capable of doing it because you don't have a name and you're not part of the people who are, of course, sanctified to be president of Nigeria. And that's what must change now.
Yeah, I want us to look at things in practical terms.
Yes.
If you talk to most Nigerians, what they're asking for, they are not asking for too much. Nigerians are not looking for maybe an angel to come from heaven and build heaven here in Nigeria. They're asking for basic necessities of life, yes, basic amenities like water, power, good schools, good roads. Now you want to be president.
Yes.
How do you intend to provide this for Nigerians if given the opportunity within the tenure of your administration?
We have 10 programs that are sitting on 3 pillars. And the first pillar is security. Second is self-sufficiency. and toward the sustainability. And the programs are one, security, power, electricity, infrastructure. We want to double the infrastructure in this country, fight against corruption, have an inclusive economic system. I'm not discussing the economics of World Bank structural adjustment program that destroyed this country. I'm talking about an economic system that is built by Nigerians and Nigerians can be proud of. I'm the first candidate to propose a 100,000 minimum wage for workers in this country, and everybody, there was an uproar. Some 2 weeks ago, South Africa is paying 126,000, equivalent of 126,000 naira. We want to restructure this country, but we have disagreement with the restructuring that was couched as a political party. And the moment the restructuring apostles found their candidate, Atiku, suddenly nobody's talking about restructuring. I've been saying that they didn't mean restructuring. They were forming a party that would turn this country into a paradise for thieves once again. And we're talking about health, education, agriculture, and tourism that is built around technology and modern practices. So you are not asking for more than basic things, right? But you know what I found out having traveled around this country, having done about 32 states in the last 9 months, is actually that we can turn this country into a paradise as well. There's no big deal about it. We can move our electricity supply from 3,000 megawatts to 24,000. Using solar energy alone, you can do 4,500 megawatts. Morocco just did it. You can Google it and find out about it. Tunisia is doing it. You know, our gas system, there are 9-point-something billion cubic feet of gas in Ogoni land alone. That means that we have gas supply enough to provide gas turbine-driven electricity that can last us for over 40 years. But you cannot go near Ogoni land today because of the way these same leaders destroy the environment there, kill the people there, and don't want to resolve the problem. They only pay lip service to resolving the problem. We have said we will provide 5-point-something million jobs for young people, and it's not a promise that is based on just promises. We laid it down by saying we want to build 17 million units of housing, just the same way they did in China. For those who like to talk about China, they have what they call ghost apartments. Apartments that have been built that has not been occupied, even though they have over 1 billion people. That will provide jobs. If we double our infrastructure as it is now, not just managing to do roads, you know, over 13,000 kilometers of road, that will provide over 2 million jobs. If we do what we want to do with agricultural entrepreneurship, which is providing about 1,000 jobs for entrepreneurs in every local government, multiply that by 774 local government. Tell me how many jobs you get. When we hire 200,000 teachers to fund into our system so that we can take over 13 million kids who are out of school now back into school and spend 1.3 trillion naira, 100,000 naira per child to go back to school. Tell me why the country will not improve. But the leaders in this country are not interested. They are more interested in feeding prisoners 14,000 naira per day than spending 100,000 naira to send children back to school, out of school kids. I want to pay students who are going to university study allowance as well so that they can stay in school and focus on school. And anybody who's going to school and get that study allowance, if you come out and you work with the federal government, maybe as a teacher or in any public position, we forgive the grant. But if you go and find a job in a bank in the private sector, you pay us back with interest. That's how it is done in other places. I'm just giving you this because I know there's not enough time. And this is the reason why I cannot wait to debate so many of these guys. And you heard that we're excluded from the debate because they're afraid of these ideas that will ignite growth, the kind of growth and development that will make Nigeria live above the basic necessities of life. We've been talking about basic necessities of life since I was in primary school. We should not be talking about that anymore. People are entitled to live on paradise on earth if their countries can afford it. And our country has shown that they can afford it. But
can our country afford it?
Absolutely.
Because the next question will be, how are you going to fund all of these that you talk about? In a country where governments, state and federal, are saying they are unable to pay 30,000 naira minimum wage.
They don't want to pay minimum wage. They are not interested in minimum wage. They are not interested in paying wages. period. These guys are slave drivers. Let me explain why that is the case to you. There's an argument going on between Fayemi in Ekiti State, Kayode Fayemi, and his former governor, Fayose. And Fayemi found out that Fayose had 18 billion naira given to him through the Paris loan refund. He never paid workers. Why? Because they needed the money to do elections so that he could put his puppets to cover up his behind for him. Fayemi probably would do the same thing because the money that was supposed to use to pay workers in Ondo State was used to help Fayemi do see and buy in Ekiti. You understand? So why would they pay workers when the money that is supposed to go to workers is more about money they're interested in using to buy voters? These are the kind of leaders you have. They're not interested in paying workers. The one in Kogi State.
You are making some very weighty allegations.
You are making a presidential candidate.
Allegations that you possibly cannot back up with facts.
I will back up with facts. Look, I'm in this country. I'm also a reporter. Like every one of you sitting here, whether you don't accept me or not is a different issue. But I'm a reporter. I run Sahara Reporters. I have backed up all this. In fact, so many of the allegations that went to court now that they are trying in court, they first of all appeared on Sahara Reporters. So I'm not lying. I'm not lying that there was Paris reforms that were stolen by governors. There was a governor in Zamfara State, and this is not an allegation, who was given Paris reform, and he went and bought homes in America with it. I went and obtained the pictures, I obtained the documents I wish he bought homes with. But because he was friends with the president, he was trying to marry the president's daughter, nobody touched him till today. The governor who was found collecting dollars on tape, is that one allegation too? Why is there nobody touching him? So these are not allegations, we have facts on the ground. But instead of trying the governor, you are running after the reporter who exposed him and claiming that it's fake tapes.
Mr. Sowore.
Yes.
You are an activist, no doubt.
Yes. And there's nothing wrong with activism.
No, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yes.
Some of us are too.
Yes.
Why do you think people don't take you serious
You think
in
people
this
don't-
race?
You think people don't take me serious?
No, the perception outside there. Does it
where
make
you
it
get-
look as...
so here is where I will ask you for the facts.
Yes.
Where do you get the facts from that there's a perception that people don't take me serious?
I interact with people in the community.
But your personal interaction is not enough. It's not empirical enough. It might be that you have a bias for the people you interact with.
No, the question
If I
I've
wasn't
asked,
taken serious,
Yes.
why do you think they don't want me to be in a debate?
it could also be
presidential
part
debate.
of the lack of seriousness they think of.
Lack of seriousness? And you think Buhari is serious and Atiku is serious? You tell me.
No, but beyond that.
No, we are
your
having an
activism.
argument. We are journalists.
Yes, beyond your activism.
No.
Beyond your activism.
Beyond my activism,
Yes.
I just read to you my educational background. I attended the University of Lagos.
Good one.
Yes. I have a master's degree.
Yeah.
in
Can you
public
allow me to ask the
administration.
question?
Yes, go ahead and ask the question.
Beyond your activism,
Yes.
you come from a very rich cultural background, the Southwest.
Who gave you the impression that...
I'm a Nigerian, first and
Okay,
foremost, so I understand
I want
that.
you to land, yes.
Yes. You come from a very rich cultural background where we have respect and honor and revere elders.
Yes.
You are considered as somebody that uses some very foul languages on people.
Like
and you
what?
want to rule.
Like what? I've been here since. What foul language did you detect in my countenance? Or
So
my
many. I
expression?
cannot continue to...
No,
espouse them.
we've been interviewing, and I want you to take me up on that because you are.
No, but I've listened to you.
Gentlemen, we have very limited
You are a
time.
reporter.
Let's go
you are
to the
confronting a
substance of our-
presidential candidate,
Yes.
and you are on national TV. You can't be flippant. With due respect to you. Yes.
Another word.
No, you can't afford to be because people are watching us. People
That's
are
why I say
listening
you
to
see,
us.
you've used
And
another word.
It's about the future. No, flippant is not an insulting word, but I consider it flippant for you to say that people
But
don't
it's
take me
derogatory,
serious.
you know?
It's derogatory for you to
Good.
say that I'm not being taken serious when I've traveled around 32 states in 9 months. I have an agenda. I have spoken to crowds around this country. I've been to palaces. I've been to schools. I've been to churches. I have been to town hall meetings, not only in Nigeria. I've been in Canada. I've been in the US. I've been in the UK. I've been in Australia, traveling over 26 hours. And you say people don't take me serious. People are donating to our campaign. You say they don't take me serious, both locally and internationally. Yes, I'm the only one who has raised money publicly and transparently. And you think people don't take me serious. That's why I said it was flippant, with due respect.
Okay, Mr. Sowore, many Nigerians are watching,
Yes.
and they are beginning to tweet at us.
Yes.
Now, one of the tweets that are just coming comes from Esco, and who says, who wants you to respond to this question? How do you intend to govern without having corrupt persons in your cabinet?
Thank you. So, the assumption that every Nigerian is corrupt is what that government will lead you to. That there are a lot of Nigerians who are not corrupt. But the kind of system of governance, of patronage that we've been running over these years have only promoted the interests of the greedy. And we have been servicing the greedy to the point that people don't even know that there are Nigerians who are honest within Nigeria and outside Nigeria who can help lead this country to prosperity. A lot of them professionals who are doing so well. And our campaign, as it is, we started 9 months ago as a movement, has so many of those Nigerians. In fact, we have gotten to a point where we have a shadow cabinet in place. But if you're in doubt about my pedigree and integrity, I did Sahara Reporters for 12 years. I wasn't the only person there. I had reporters, and you can ask anybody who knows some of our underground reporters. It is against our own rules to even accept what they call communique, which is the envelopes that they collect when they go and cover events. If I do not have enough money for my reporter, I don't send you to work. And when I started Sahara Reporters a year ago in a lab in Lagos, I promised that anybody working in that lab will not be paid less than the minimum wage that I'm proposing today. And that's exactly what I did. But you know what? It didn't take more than 2 months after I started when they came after me. They seized the money through a law court in Ilorin. The Senate president seized the money. Of course, I just won the case in the Court of Appeal, and we're waiting to get out our money now. So, and that leads me to your question about cultural respect. If you know what the elders of this country have done to us, you know that they don't deserve respect. In fact, we are nice that we still see them and respect them. They've destroyed what could have been of our dignity. They've brought poverty, they've brought diseases. They've stripped us. That is why when you travel abroad, when other people are being separated and treated by human beings, they ask dogs come and sniff you because you are Nigerian. It's these elders that you ask us to respect that did it to us. Our elders, so many of them, especially the political leaders, don't deserve any respect. I'm saying it without apology. But there are elders in this country who deserve respect, and we respect them, and they respect us.
Yeah, you talked about the minimum wage, yes, that we can pay, but some of these governors don't just want to pay.
They don't want to pay.
Right. Now, if you are president, how will you get them to pay? One, the governors have immunity.
Yes.
So how will you compare these governors? Because you have listed several allegations about
minimum
against some of them here. Now, if such a thing happened in your administration, how will you go about it?
Minimum wage that we are proposing is for federal workers. I am not responsible for state workers as the president of Nigeria. But I will do everything I can.
Yeah, what will you do at the state level?
So I will do everything I can to help push for payment of wages for workers. There's a difference between minimum wage and a living wage. What I'm proposing is a living wage for workers. So it's to put pressure on these governors and help let everybody know transparently how much they're getting. Listen, as we're sitting here today, you can never hear that a governor failed to pay himself the security vote in any month. It has never happened before. And these security votes are in millions, in some cases billions of naira. Almost 50% of what the minimum wage of workers are in those states. I would work towards a legislation that will abolish security votes, because that's slush funds that are not accounted for, that if they were accounted for, there will be enough money to take care of the minimum wage of workers at 100,000 naira per worker. Let me explain to you how much it will cost us. We've done our calculation. And it's only going to cost $1.5 billion to pay this minimum wage. But it will grow the local economy so fast and so well that our GDP will grow astronomically. Because the people at the top who are earning the highest in terms of allowances and salary. When they get paid, they take the money out. They go to Dubai, London to go and buy houses. When the workers, regular workers get paid, they send money to their children, they spend money in schools, they send money to their parents. So minimum wage or living wage is a wage that is retained within the country. But here we are, complaining about minimum wage of 30,000 naira. And our senators are taking home 13.7 million naira as allowances every month. Do you know that it takes 2 years of a PhD holder, a professor that has been working for 14 years, it takes them 2 years of salary at 450,000 naira per month to make the allowance of a senator?
In 1 month.
In 1 month.
Yes.
If you are earning minimum wage of 30,000 in Nigeria, it will take you 30 years to make the salary of a senator in a month.
The allowance.
The allowance of a senator, not the salary. And you have not added the extortion that they carry out in the name of oversight in ministries, departments, and agencies of government. Something that we stop. Look, we should not be deceiving ourselves sitting down. We know all the problems. All the journalists, we know all the problems.
Yeah,
Yes.
I want to ask you this question.
But before you ask that question, let me quickly say here, we've been getting a lot of tweets.
I
And
can
one of
imagine.
them is from Oulu Messiah,
Yes.
who says, we take Sowore seriously.
Yes, I'm surprised that our colleague said that people don't take me seriously. But we'll resolve that when we get out of here.
But Ahigbe also asks that you speak the truth in a raw way.
Well, it's what is needed at this time. We have been raped and destroyed in the rawest manner. And to retrieve and recover from that situation, we have to speak truth to power in the rawest possible way. You have to our leaders are tone deaf. And that is starting to affect the followership as well. So to break through that ceiling that is preventing people, that's made people very complacent and reticent, you have to go beyond this. That's why we call our campaign Revolution Now.
And Victor is also reacting to the statement you just made about paying 100,000 naira as minimum wage to federal workers.
Yes.
And his question is, won't that create anarchy in the system if the workers at the state level
Yes,
are left
disequilibrium.
unattended to?
No, there won't be disequilibrium. There won't be disequilibrium. You see, what is there is that whatever is happening at the federal, the federal government shares money. Every revenue that comes to Nigeria is shared between the federal and the state and the local governments, right? And what happens to us is that we need 1.3 billion to pay minimum wage of 100,000. But we are stealing 5 billion every year from the public purse. So if we add another billion, we'll be able to pay state workers, or let's say we add another 2 billion, which makes it 3.5 billion. We'll be able to pay state workers this amount. But the state workers have to fight for their life, that when the money gets to the governors, they pay the monies to them. It's not only salaries that governors are stealing. Governors are stealing local government allocation with impunity in this country. We know that, right? So you cannot continue with, so it's up to people to also not vote for thieves as their governors. You have to look for a Sowore in your state as well and vote for him in the next election. Look for a Sowore as a senator. Let me tell you, the other day I was asking that we abolish the Senate and have a unicameral legislative system. There was an uproar in the country. A few days ago, some senators and I think House of Rep members gathered together that they are looking for a parliamentary system of governance. What is the parliamentary system of governance? It's pretty much a unicameral legislative system.
Where do you think they are coming from?
Huh?
Where do you think they are coming from?
Because the ideas that I have been speaking to is beginning to percolate into the system, because people are following me and they are looking at it and saying, this young man has got great ideas. Due respect, senior journalist, I was the one who proposed June 12 as Democracy Day. Today now, I heard the other day that the House of Reps has already passed a law that will make June 12 Democracy Day. And those were the ideas we fought for when we were young. So it's coming from the understanding that the bicameral legislative system is too expensive.
The main question I wanted
wasteful.
to ask you earlier,
Yes.
is you've proposed so many things you want to do.
Yes.
Minimum wage,
Yes.
infrastructure, education, and so on. Just a few days ago, one of the governors, as a matter of fact, the chairman of the Governors Forum, came out to tell the nation that the president told them that the economy is down. Nigerians should wait and expect more hardship. And now, you are contesting. If you win with a very tattered economy, how do you intend to cope or actualize all the things you are putting together?
With a lot of external borrowing by state and even the federal government.
You know, nothing is as bad as deception. You know, this is the same country in which they said through the Federal Inland Revenue Service alone, they said they've made 5 trillion naira in taxes. Is this correct?
That's what they said.
Yes. What is Nigeria's budget? Nigeria's budget, 8
something.
trillion. That means that from FRS alone, you've covered a huge percentage of your budget.
More than 60%.
Exactly. This same year, $320 million was returned from Abacha loot into, that wasn't budgeted for. So extra money, right? Even JAMB said they made money this year.
Trillions.
No. The Port Authority claimed they made money. EFCC said they recovered over 540-something billion naira from people who stole from the past. So who is lying to who? You see, they are telling you...
You've not come to the oil sector.
I'm not going to go there because I'm talking about areas that are not where we naturally get funding from, of course. Revenue from oil sector, I'll go to that later. Because, for instance, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Kachuku, said that Nigeria lost $60 billion to a particular law that was supposed to apply to oil wells that was of a certain depth. They gave them about 10 years of grace not to pay royalties. Now the 10 years is passed. So they are supposed to pay royalties, and from those royalties, we're supposed to get $60 billion. That's just from one law alone. But because nobody is out there in control of the economy of the country, there's no leadership. With due respect, this country is without government. We only hear from government when things are failing. You don't hear from them when things are going well. But guess what? These same people who are telling you that the economy is going down, when it's time for the election, money will be popping out from everywhere to buy voters. Because the money that's supposed to be used for the development of the country, they are hiding it somewhere for election day. That is the crime that leadership is in this country. And that is why Nigerians must open their eyes and ears to those with fresh ideas and get rid of these dinosaurs whose only way of governing is excuses and more excuses and more excuses. And you might say that maybe my language is tough, but this is the time for it, for us to keep speaking the raw truth that can breathe life into a future that we desire in this country, because our children need it very badly.
Omoyele, let me just, because we have very limited time left, this tweet is coming from Prince Emenike, and he's asking, he likes your boldness, but what he says, what is your grassroots support base like in the 36 states of Nigeria, and how do you want to win? Because in Rivers State, he says, in Rivers State, they have never seen your party campaigning.
Oh, well, that's not correct. In Rivers State, we have representatives. In fact, I'm heading to Rivers on Thursday, so you can meet me there. I just came from Uyo yesterday in Akwa Ibom State, and the reception was massive. The thing is, you have to differentiate between organic followership and the paid pipers, people who are hired because of how the economy has been destroyed to come and say, yes, sir, to the political parties. In some political parties in our underground investigation, when two political parties are coming into town, the same people go to the same rally, because it's a business. that's of people going to rallies. But our own is organic. So we have people I've been to Rivers State. I did a town hall meeting there before, and I'm going back on Thursday. I've done 32 states. There's no candidate, both old and new, in this current dispensation, with due respect, that has been to as many states that I have been. I've been to as many places as possible. That I went to President Buhari's hometown, Daura, about 3 weeks ago. I rode into the place. The place, of course, had no light in the night, and told them that they should be expecting their grandfather because we are retiring him next year. And they shared to it. The problem, and I will lay this on your shoulders and on your feet, is that the media are not covering the new candidates. This is the 4th time in 9 months that I'm coming to AIT. Every night you are only covering APC and PDP, the 2 failed parties that failed this country. You have not conscientiously given new ideas and fresh ideas an opportunity to breed so that more people can see. If you covered us yesterday in New York, and I'm sure you have a correspondence in New York, it would have been a different story.
If you told us you were going to
tell you. We invite you all the time, but nobody shows up.
You didn't tell us about you're going to
you are not the program director of AIT.
No, so I am.
That's why you don't know.
I am the director of news, so I should know.
You have heard about Port Harcourt on Thursday now.
You have
you have
to now. You have to formally invite me.
We invite you.
You have to send us formal invitations and notify us. And we cover all political parties. And that is the reason why we have given presidential candidates the equal opportunity to feature on this program.
I appreciate
this is second invitation.
The last time I was here, I made the same charge. The truth is that proportionately we are being gamed. We are being shortchanged.
The media will be there.
Is the reason why we're skimmed out of the debate, because I'm sure people who listen to my ideas, my views tonight, we have a different view of who is running for the presidency.
Unfortunately, our time is up. We must go. We have exhausted our 1 hour on the program today. Mr. Sowore, I assure you that if you invite us and invite the media, if you give us notice, adequate notice, we will cover you, because we have a policy to cover every political
and then you mean that I can get the live coverage, the type that PDP gets?
You get the live coverage if you pay for that. Okay. The live coverage is you pay for.
I thought the Constitution said all of us should get the same
airtime. For news, you will get the same airtime. You will get the same treatment as any other party. I assure you of that. We'll talk about that when we leave the studio.
Thank you.
Well, we've been hosting Omoyele Sowore, who is the presidential candidate of the Africa Action Congress, AAC. And I've been joined on the program today by 2 of my colleagues, Amos Dunia, who is the executive editor for Front Magazine, and Philip Ian, who is our political correspondent with the New Telegraph newspaper. Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
We wish you the very best.
Thank you so much.
And we look forward to giving your party all the coverage you need.
Thank
My name is Imonia Marere. Do have yourself a wonderful time for the rest of today. See you again when we bring you
Please subscribe to Face TV Africa and turn the notification on. Face TV Africa, subscribe.
Face TV was Swoby.